Okay, hey guys, what's up? Another video now. This one is actually about the CW show, Riverdale. Okay, so, excuse me if I'm eating a Twinkie during this video. I'm really hungry and really good. Anyways, yeah, this show is about Riverdale. Now, Riverdale is based on characters from Archie comics, and actually, a lot of people are like, okay, or a lot of the younger generation guys is, what are Archie comics? A lot of people don't know what Archie comics are because they did come out in the 90s. I mean, the 50s or 40s, Archie comics usually did. But my brother used to read them a lot when he was younger, and then he kind of passed the tradition of reading them on to me. So I'm lucky enough to have two Archie comics. Here I have an Archie comic, and I have a Betty and Veronica comic. Now these comics are like low-key, happy-go-lucky 50s kind of attitude, where the show, oh my god, look guys, this one doesn't have a Riverdale, but this has a Riverdale ad on the back. I think this might have a Riverdale ad somewhere. Oh yeah, and this one has a Riverdale ad right there. So both of these have Riverdale ads on them, of course, which is cool. So yeah, so the characters are based off the characters in the comic. You know, on the front you can see Veronica and Archie, and on the front of this you can see Betty and Veronica. That's how they look in the comics mostly. I want to find Jughead for you guys. For those of you guys who are big fans of Cole Sprouse as Jughead, he's totally different in the comics. I don't know. I'm trying to find it in this one because this is Archie's Funhouse. Okay. If you guys can see Jughead right there, that is Jughead in the comics. So yeah, the show is so different than the comics. You know, the comics are happy-go-lucky kind of thing. You know, like, yeah, you guys know how comics are. You know, Archie's this doof in the comics, and he's totally gung-ho on finding the Black Hood in Riverdale, you know. I'm behind in Riverdale right now, so if I'm, like, backtracking on a few things, don't mind me. Yeah. And then, you know, like, in the comics, Veronica's just a rich snob who is fighting for Archie's affection because in the comic, he goes between Betty and Veronica. Like, he goes on dates with Veronica and goes on dates with Betty, but in the show, he's legit with Veronica for a while. I do know about that kiss that happened in the season finale. Don't ask me how, but I do know about that. It's my fault for going on social media when I'm behind. It's my own fault. And then Betty is actually the closest character to her one in the comics, except for now. In the comics, Betty's the good girl, next door, always follows the rules, and then in the show, it just all completely goes south from there. But, she is still my favorite character. Jughead in the comics is a guy who just loves to eat. Just loves to eat. Mostly loves to eat Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. And yeah, Pop-Tarts is from the comics. That's where they hang out and eat, but it's totally different in the show. Like, it's not meant to sound racist or anything. It's gonna sound so racist, but it's not meant to. in the comics, Pop is a white guy with balding hair, unlike the show. And that's not meant to sound racist, guys. I am not racist. I'm just trying to find a way to explain it. That doesn't sound, but that sounds, but it's not meant to be. I swear, guys. That's not meant to sound rude. So please don't bash me for it, because I was trying to make that sound as nice as possible. I just didn't know any way else to explain it. Reggie is actually a much bigger character in the comics than he is in the show. I mean, there are stories in this comic about him, and he's in, yeah. And in the show, Archie and the Pussycat Dolls exist in the same universe, but I think in the comics they don't, because Josie and the Pussycats have had separate stories from the Archie gang in the comics. Same for Cheryl Blossom. Cheryl Blossom has had her own comics. They're still in the Archie universe, but they're definitely Cheryl Blossom comics. I think I've had one of her comics too in the past, but my brother stole it back from me. Thanks, bro. So I don't have that one to show you. But like in the comics, she doesn't go to the same school as them, and her brother is alive and asshole. In the comics. In the show, we don't know. I never really excuse me, I never really heard of Betty's sister in the comics until after the show. Lo and behold, I'm like, oh, Betty doesn't have a sister. Who's in the freaking comic but her sister? I was like, really? But her sister is much more kind of in the college stratosphere in the comics as opposed to the show. I'm gonna have to split this into 2 parts, guys, if this gets too long. So one character that hasn't showed up in Riverdale, which I don't think she will, because she kind of went into a stratosphere herself earlier with, like, the show that was based on her, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She's in a few Archie comics, but I think they're planning on making another CW show with the Sabrina the Teenage Witch from the comics. But if you go on Hulu, they have these shows called Archie's Funhouse and the Archie Show, which is more based on these characters. If you really want to see like where Riverdale came from, definitely check out the comics. You can get these comics on archiecomics.com or a subscription. I got this one from the store, and I got this one from my subscription account. Yeah, and you'll see ads for Riverdale on some of them. Probably all of them. And yeah, but definitely check out the shows on Hulu. They're like so lame, but it will really kind of signify where the characters came from. Mr. Weatherby on the comics is actually this guy, I think. Might not be though. I don't know, like I'm all confused because yeah, Mr. Weatherby in the comics is also white. That sounds so racist, but guys, it's not. It's not Montoya. And Miss Grundy in the comics is old, like gray hair old. So yeah. In the comics, you know, I'm just gonna make this Riverdale versus the comics, because this is turning into comic. This is going to the comics. Okay. Sorry, I had to write that down. In the comics, Jughead is not in a relationship really with anybody. I mean, in the comics, Ethel, if you remember Ethel from the show, in the comics, that's who his prime date will be. But in the show, he's with Betty, kind of, mostly. And I mean, Betty and Jughead in the comics are good friends, but they're not, like, ever in a dating relationship.